this in paintings and in mythologies is just this force that wants to capture, you know, the feminine. We see it in mythologies of Persephone being dragged into the underworld by Hades. And so these false archetypes, and they have become the authority structures of our world. When we look at the outer authority, authority is also connected to the way we are raised and also our parents. It has to do with outer authority. That connects with the planet Saturn. So we've been dealing with this authority on Earth that has not been helpful to our capacity to be sovereign beings. So these false archetypes are just the programmings that we've been, you know, dealing with, and just the way the, you know, the system is set up. And the fact is because it's not balanced, because it's not based on the organic divine template, it has become a breeding ground of the darkest of entities that have infiltrated all sorts of things. All the powerful groups on Earth that would help to do the repair work, all the teachings that were there to help us to remember who we are, all the books, the ancient texts that were like altered, is why, you know, it's been so hard. And so this is why we see these secret societies that have been infiltrated, and it has to do with the artificial tree of life that I was talking about yesterday, the 10 sphere, the draconian codes of, you know, all this, and how it's just gotten worse and worse and worse because of amnesia, because we're born into things, because we hold on to traditions, because we get the outer facade, but we don't see, you know, what's behind the curtain and the crimes that exist behind it, and the understanding of these 13 families and all that kind of stuff. So the program, male and female. So getting out of the underworlds is what draws in the aqua ray to the planetary core. So we lost a connection with the mother, but this is a window period where that energy is returned. So I wanted to just go back to what I was sharing in the beginning of how this planetary body was formed after these exploded planets, to remind people of the higher aspects of the mother energy. So as a new world was forming, when these exploded planets took place and we dropped down into this lower harmonic universe, Sophia morphed into the physical planet, and this was the intervention to become an ascending planet and to help activate our higher codes. So this planetary body is encoded as an ascension planet. It's got a 13-dimensional monadic core. That is the mother arc energy. When this planetary body was created, there was an intervention from the mother herself, knowing that a portion of her being had been pulled in. To correct that, and all the souls connected with it, the mother energy had to morph into the planet and hold the codes of our capacity to heal and repair our DNA. And it's also part of the repair work of, you know, the things that took place that go into just like even the cosmic trinity and some of the events that took place with the Luciferian force. But anyway, this is a 13D monadic core planet. The mother arc morphed into the physical planet in the very beginning. It connects us with the Godhead. It connects us with 0 point energy. And it's an ascending planet that's been under attack. All these galactic wars step down here, put the overlays of these false grids, put these reversal things in place. And the Lemurian Holocaust, the Atlantean cataclysms, and all these different events, you know, and the Anunnaki coming in and the scrambling of our DNA code ended up being the result. So this is a planet that is, you know, under attack. Our mother, who's part of that greater cosmic trinity, who's connected to the 0 point unified field that connects us with other universes and galaxies like Andromeda, that is the true home. That is the true wholeness and oneness of what the mother holds. So in this fragmented experience, we're reintegrating all these different archetypes. And this is, we're all doing it in our own way, and this is what we're doing together. So there's also the seeding of the angelic humans on Earth, and this is, you know, the rescue mission of the Christ Sophia, is that these higher aspects come in, and it's sort of like when we're healing from a traumatic childhood. It doesn't mean that we can't function, but if we want to be whole, sometimes we have to like retrieve our soul. We have to go back a little bit and see where there's parts of ourselves that are still lost in the vibration of trauma or loss or forgetfulness. And so these rescue missions are all about bringing that remembrance, bringing those higher frequencies in, but then choosing to go into these underworlds to grab those parts that are laying there sort of, you know, exiled and mistreated, and bringing them back up to the surface. And this is what we've been doing. The light workers, the starseeds, and those that are feeling a strong connection with that, they've been doing that. And they're activating those that are asleep in this process. But the problem with the media and other things is that it distracts them away. It interferes with this greater work that we're doing. And that's kind of like what happens when you're in a free will universe. There is this thing that branches off, and it's this negative ego construct that is challenging us. And we all hold this challenge within ourselves. We could achieve balance very easily in our own system and reawaken the template of the divine masculine and feminine if we didn't have this ego energy that is learning the right use of power. Once it learns the right use of power, that's when the repair work really happens. But the mind control and the sort of world that we're in hijacks our egos because of the targeting of our self-esteem from an early age, and the indoctrination and the mind control and the social engineering. So according to my research, the 13th blue ray was previously under the control of the Melchizedek hosting of our planet. They became fallen and patriarchal and were highly manipulated by the Orion group. Since the Sumerian Egypt invasion, the mother arc aqua blue ray was not in the earth core anymore. So therefore the earth had lost her mother of God and female Christophanic body principle. So that's why I wanted to bring back that slide of, the mother energy morphing into the planet as a 13D monadic core, and how all these different events took place that actually didn't make it possible for that energy to be anchored. And so a lot of people have had to come in and go through the underworlds and go through that process of retrieving those lost aspects to then be able to open the field up for the mother energy to return, because this is a portion of the mother's body that fell in. So it's just, and that's the path they consider, that's the path of the daughter, the extension of the mother that has had to, walk on this earth and go through all these different things in order to clear the gateways for the mother energy to come back into the planet, which is basically like her higher self. And that guidance of our own higher self is what enables us to do the same thing in our own lives when we need to heal, when we need to pull piece of ourselves out of the underworld. And I don't even like to use the word underworld anymore, but whatever. So without the mother arc 13th gate, or the female principle able to manifest into form, it became hijacked, right? So then we're in this 3D thing, and it wasn't able to manifest into form anymore. And there have been openings in the timelines where advanced souls were able to actually incarnate in that are capable of carrying those codes. Yeah. So, but without that mother arc 13th gate or female principle able to manifest into form, it became hijacked and hidden. And the 13 families has kept ritual abuse going to keep the dark reversals alive. And that hijacking, has to do with like, not really like knowing these, deeper stories, like religion just giving us the Virgin Mary and Mary Magdalene and, some of the female archetypes out there, not knowing their true stories, just getting a version of it that doesn't give the full history. And then some of the alterations of ancient texts have distorted our ability to connect with them, in a way that like allows us to like work it on the inside out. So, because it's something that we have to achieve within ourselves to then, generate it into the world. So so this is why we see a world or an earth that has toxicity in its waters, its air, its all the elements hold a lot of contamination because the mother energy hasn't really been present. So it's been like used in a very like dark and negative way. And the mind control that has separated us from our ability to heal has polluted the nucleic acids in our DNA. That's why we have illness. So we're seeing an outer reflection of what our DNA is actually looking like. And our DNA is elemental. So where we have lost connection with ourself, and that mind control has come in, it's created a lot of pollution and toxicity because our consciousness hasn't been able to purify. The connection with the ether hasn't been able to purify. And we see that in the elements and in the world around us. And so the ether element and the corrections have been taking place, and that's what this window period is all about. And that is what is important for us to know so that we can feel like, whoa, we are getting somewhere. And there is this whole other story that is going on, even though we don't, really hear about it. But anyway, when Sophia fell due to the explosion of Tiamat after getting struck by Marduk and the Nibiru, she fell into her own dream because she was part of the creation of everything, right? So, and it is like a dream. So she kind of fell into it and then decided that she seeded each and every human with her divine spark so they could return home and not be led astray for good. She came a part of this experience with us, a portion of her did. And we see this with certain, cultures of you know, goddess culture energy, you know, the Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, different aspects of the goddess energy in like Avalon and Lemuria. And we see different aspects of the father energy too that have come in to do this repair work and to reseed, you know, lines of energy that would be able to hold a frequency that could correct these distortions and these fragments. She came into the physical as like the Gaia Sophia planet too. I mean, the thing is, we're on a 13-dimensional planet. We're on a multi-dimensional Earth, but the fences only keep us in a 3D experience. So we miss out on the rest of it. But also a personification of the Venus archetype and energy connected to the Venus transits, goddess archetypes, and global alchemy. But there are many like more aspects than just that, but that's a big piece of it. In order to bring this aqua ray energy, this mother arc, back to the earth core. So the diamond heart in the earth body is essentially the definition of the Sophionic body of the mother. The feminine principle needs to be grounded back into the earth body, because when it's not grounded, the dark mother reversals are in power, and it's the feminine enslaved and used by forces of domination and control. So healing the root races is one part, integrating fragments, going through the journey, you know, into like that dark polarity, to recognize the womb energy and the birthing center that it is, to knock out the gatekeepers, to connect with the true higher self, to then, you know, integrate, you know, the light and dark. That is the beginnings of the activation of the crystal star, of this, the diamond heart. So the benevolent purpose of many different beings. I mean, it's important to know like what kind of groups we're dealing with. Presently, there are 4 primary groups of visitors that are members of the 3 primary ancient hybrid human starseed race lines. There's the Grail line, race Emerald Sun Order, the Indigo Children and Angelic Human, the Grail line, race Ruby Sun Order, Nephilim, Elohim, Indigo Children, and Angelic Human. And then there's 2 controller groups, the Belial Sun, Anu Elohim, they're considered intruders, and the Black Sun, Seraphim, Draconian, which are considered intruders. These 4 primary races hold 3 conflicting agendas regarding the continuation of Earth human evolution. Each are contacting their Earth hybrid incarnates to assist in fulfilling their respective agendas. And so there's a lot of different agendas that we see, you know, duking it out, but the ones that are benevolent are here to help activate us and remind us and reconnect us with the true essence of, you know, what we're made of. And, you know, the archetypes, some will relate to more than others. Some might relate to a completely different, you know, archetype, but in the end, we are rebuilding something that used to be whole. It all started off from source. It all started off in the wholeness of the cosmic trinity. You know, and as we stepped more and more into the dimensional bands of the time matrix and experience these, you know, different wars and infiltrations, we are on Earth to do the repair work, both within ourselves and working, you know, together. So both benevolent and malevolent extraterrestrials have been involved with this planet for millions of years, and they have never left this planet. This was known, but 5,005 years ago, this came to an end. The real extraterrestrial agenda is hidden, while a false record of human history is instead put in its place. So, you know, we're dealing with timeline wars. Currently, planet Earth's inhabitants are undergoing a war over timelines. The invading forces of the negative alien agenda who use the artificial tree of life as a manifestation grid. Trigger events to hook us into false solutions, and of course the medical industry with drugs, pharmaceuticals, and the externalization of our healing process as a humanity with these outer movements that are owned by very nefarious dark groups. So artificial timelines have been in the works for 26,000 years. Positive timeline connects with recognizing our divine blueprint and true origins. The positive timeline is the organic ascension, natural stargates opening, expansion, upgrades of our DNA. Understanding the stellar activation cycle window period is our opportunity to get fully anchored on this path, to avoid future repercussions that come from being immersed in the artificial matrix. Much of the benevolent ET visitation has to do with correcting this, but some are not, and they are part of the negative agenda. I was visited by a group at an early age, sort of preparing me for all of this. A lot of people have, you know, I consider it like a part of like our higher self, you know. We have a lot of intervention that like assists us along the way. So the catastrophic timeline is negative ETs who have been manipulating the human world of affairs for thousands and thousands of years since the Atlantean cataclysm for their own purposes. They compromised their DNA on purpose and manipulated ours. Black Ops whistleblower testimonies reveal that the looking glass technology and time travel has been used by the secret government elite for many years to change and rewrite history so that it follows their desired path and reaches their desired outcomes. Many visiting races have warned us about the implications of using those technologies. So here's the organic timeline connected to 12 spheres. Going beyond the astral plane, if you look at the lower, area of 1, 2, 3, we hit 4, that's the astral plane. And we want to go beyond the 4, because if we don't, here we are over at that false ascension matrix, because we're connecting into parasitic influences and archonic attachments and just the mess of things that are going on in the astral. They're actually trying to step down what has been happening in the astral down into the physical realm, which is what the next phase of this agenda is. But basically, a lot about the astral realm has begun the process for a long time of creating cords to parasitic entities that have impacted our fourth chakra. So when we start to activate our higher heart chakra, it actually steps down into the fourth chakra and it changes the frequency and color of it. So once we are able to conceive of a higher universal love, and we understand things like sacred union, hierogamic union, and we bring that in, we actually clear the astral entities, and we actually clear our heart chakra, and it turns into a blue lotus. So the Egyptians understood, how powerful the blue lotus energy was. And that's all a part of the, the integration of higher and lower. So as you see with these numbers, they correspond with chakras, and they also correspond with our DNA. And so the organic timeline shows the full 12 sphere DNA blueprint. The false ascension matrix shows the 10D base distortion. It's the phantom matrix overlay. It is an overlay that's on our grids. It's an overlay that has affected our minds, that keeps the junk DNA alive, keeps imbalance alive. And so that might be a good one to kind of sit with and look at when you replay. So a phantom planet is what a artificial timeline would eventually lead us to. A phantom planet is no longer capable of evolving out of the harmonic time cycle in which it's placed. It is no longer considered an ascension planet. It's called a descending planet. So there's a big, big goal to turn this into a descending planet. But there'd be either a bifurcation, or the phantom Earth would just completely just, fall away. It really depends, because we're not going to experience things the same way. We're all having a very unique experience, but we're all part of a greater whole and oneness, right? So what we experience, there's not really an absolute truth. Where we have our creative imagination, we have our particular experiences in past lives, we have our particular contracts, agreements, and astro charts, and, way of relating to all this. But this is just to, trigger like something for you to, understand it in a way that makes sense to you. But anyway, such a planet, like a phantom planet, will continue to evolve within its harmonic universe time cycles, but it will slowly expend the energies held within its core until its particle pulsation rhythms slow, its temperatures cool, and eventually implodes to become a black hole. So that's basically like a death. That's like a system that's dying. It's not able to return. It's in this artificial matrix. And so the circulation of energy with the 12th gate with 0-point unified field is gone. And the beings are being kind of like morphed into a lesser expression. And we've been in a lesser expression, but we're in a window right now to reclaim the pieces of ourselves that have been missing. So right in the moments that we're able to rediscover our treasures and call back or activate our dormant DNA is in the very same moment that they're looking to take us into the next level of a very, very dark agenda to pull us into a phantom Earth. So this is why this period is so crucial, because this is literally the crossroads right now, is that we get pulled into all of this more and more and more. We separate from our soul matrix, and we look at certain grays and different beings. They got separated from their soul matrix during the Orion Wars, during an event that took place on the planet called Apex, other places like Rigel, where some Nordics were engineered to become the tall grays. They're literally looking to turn us into synthetic beings, to genetically digress us even more. But here we are right here, right now, on the threshold of being able to call back our dormant DNA, to come together in unity consciousness, to understand like who we are and what we're truly made of. And it's just like this year is so critical to, jump on board and reclaim our treasures. and work together in order to do that, because we all hold the pieces that we need. But we have them inside as well, but we can help trigger those parts of ourselves that are asleep by coming together. Because again, we are the full zodiac. We are the 12-strand DNA, and the 13th sign coming in is huge. And I can't wait to tell you about the 13th sign. So the original human DNA pattern is arranged into 12 dimensionalized mathematical programs, each of which set the blueprint for one DNA strand. Each strand is composed of 12 base magnetic Myon female codes and 12 base electrical Dion male acceleration codes. So the ability to upgrade DNA is our ability to reconnect these energies. And so when we think about the electromagnetic spectrum, when we think about the male and female and harmony and balance, you know, this is what begins to do it. Now, it doesn't mean that like this has to do with gender in our human form. I mean, it doesn't mean, you know, there's anything wrong with same-sex relationships, because we all have our own balancing act to begin to ignite things within our own being. We've worn a lot of different hats in different lifetimes. We have a certain affinity to certain things that we go through or experience in order to begin to rebuild. And it's a very personal thing. So there's no way to really like address that, you know, because everybody, you know, has their own reasoning behind, you know, who they are. But there are things that they're trying to do to make it very, very difficult to have the sacred union balance. So a being that's being authentic is going to make choices that help them to restore themselves, because that's the natural inclination of an authentic and awakened being. But there are agendas, you know, even with same-sex relation, even with, you know, the masculine and feminine principle of the patriarchal agenda that makes it hard to achieve this. And, you know, and we see just, you know, that same challenge exists in same-sex relationships. The most important thing is that we're authentic. And when we're authentic and we're being true to ourselves, it doesn't matter if we're transgender, if we're in same-sex relationships, as long as it's what's important for us to find our balance and our capacity to reawaken these dormant strands. And again, these outer movements and these outer distortions and these outer programmings are constantly trying to sabotage our capacity to do that.